the keeping sober has very little to do with me. It's just putting me in the right place and putting my mind and my thought in the right place for the day. And so that's where I can't think my way sober. It's proper use of thought is before action.
Welcome to the Daily Reflection Podcast. This is a show where we strive to provide inspiration through interviews with members of the recovery community sharing their experience, strength, and hope. Today I'm on my own. Lee is taking a break, and we've got JT in from Herndon, Virginia. Jay shares his experience, strength, and hope around the concept of not being able to think our way sober. Can you think your way sober? I certainly couldn't. Before we get to the episode, quick favor to ask. If you could take a moment and leave a comment, leave a review. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, reviews are so important. They help podcasts appear higher in the search engine. So this is not about me. It's not about Lee. It's about helping to get the message out there and making sure that folks that need inspiration, need to hear other recovering addicts and alcoholics can find us in the search engine listings and in the podcast listings. Your reviews and ratings and even your comments help us in that respect. They also give us feedback. Let us know that you're listening. Let us know that you enjoy the show. It means a lot to me. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you enjoy this episode. Jay, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. And you, Michael?
I'm doing well as well. It's great to have you on the podcast. And we're going to read the daily reflection for February 13th. Would you help us get started?
Sure. February 13th. We can't think our way sober. To the intellectually self-sufficient man or woman, many AAs can say, yes, we were like you. Far too smart for our own good. Secretly, we felt we could float above the rest of the folks on our brain power alone. From As Bill sees it on page 60. Even the most brilliant mind is no defense against the disease of alcoholism. I can't think my way sober. I try to remember that intelligence is a God-given attribute that I may use, a joy like having a talent for dancing or drawing or carpentry. It does not make me better than anyone else, and it is not a particularly reliable tool for recovery, for it is a power greater than myself who will restore me to sanity, not a high IQ or a college degree.
That's kind of funny. I mean, the problem with most alcoholics is in our thinking, right? So I have to ask, why did you select February 13th to share? And does this have significance to you?
It does. It does. It is my anniversary when I arrived. Actually, my first meeting was on February 12th, 1980. And the day that I believe I had a drink the day that day, and I went to my first meeting that evening. And the following day is my first day of sobriety. So that's my anniversary date.
What was it like back then in 1980 before you came in?
AA was very different then. It was a lot of older, very what we called then low bottom drunks. Not too many people look like me at age 23. However, I can say I was really at a cusp in Alcoholics Anonymous at that time, at least in the area where I lived. There was a substantial amount of people who were about my age who started coming into the program at younger ages. And I'm truly grateful to them. We were kind of like this herd that came into AA and kind of changed some of the thinking that was going on there in some ways, in that we weren't, the low bottom drunks. We were drunks nonetheless and had our own different set of problems, which I may cover later. But the fact that we were young drinkers has an astounding effect on someone being an alcoholic. Anyway, but many of these folks, there were about around 20 or so in that vicinity, in the town in central New Jersey, that many remain sober to this day. So that's 40 years times 20. That's a lot of years of sobriety, and it just it's astounding to me that the fact that we were all together coming through this. Basically, we use the term today litter mates in describing other people who got sober when we did, and I'm in touch with some of them still to this day, and it's amazing, it truly is.
Mm. Now, you talked about low bottom, and I guess there's this concept of high bottom versus low bottom. At 23, what did your bottom look like? What
Well, I
caused you to
think
come into the program?
I had a little education prior to coming to the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous, because my dad had been in recovery for some time, and I saw his alcoholic behaviors. He was a wonderful man, extremely smart, a advertising executive, highly intelligent, and yet when he drank, he was none of those things. And when he got sober, obviously affected me to some degree. He planted the seed along the way on drinking, etc. And fortunately he wasn't a lay down the law kind of guy. Through his example, he showed me that recovery could work, and just little things along the way, and I knew where I needed to go. And another factor was that my mom was in recovery for a few months, and my stepdad just prior to that as well. So this disease is rampant in my family. So I had a lot of signposts and pointing towards Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah, well, that's powerful, and you and I share that in common. My father was in the program as well. Do you feel like alcoholism is hereditary?
I'm kind of a science guy, and I read all kinds of things on science-based literature and all that, and they say they're not sure, but from what I see, it's we go back to that movie Trading Places. When is it heredity or is it environment kind of thing? And it is definitely both. I think we have a disposition to be alcoholics, and if the environment presents itself, we become as such.
Yeah.
So we have a way of understanding, or to kind of a pathway there from seeing what we saw. And fortunately for me, seeing my dad in his underwear at the bottom of the stairs after he fell down, that kind of thing. You see those. I mean, this is almost 60 years later. I can still vividly see that, and I think those things affect us. So I'm going to put in a little plug in here for Al-Anon as well, because I think through our exposure to alcoholism, that some of the things that we experience, at least I have in my recovery today, they're helped much more so by Al-Anon than they are by AA, only because I'm the person who's affected by alcohol as well. So I have basically a foot in both programs at this point. And it kind of helps me to put it succinctly anyway, is to say that Al-Anon helps me with relationships. Alcoholics Anonymous helps me with my sobriety and my serenity.
Well, that's a great way to put it. And I've been told that as a practicing alcoholic, as someone who is in recovery, working the steps in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, I am undoubtedly going to have other alcoholics in my life. So the program of Al-Anon can help me even deal with those people, right?
Correct. And if you're doing it right, yes, you should have other alcoholics in your life. One's in recovery, hopefully.
Right. So tell me about your program today. What do you do to stay sober one day at a time?
So it involves, I think learning to live life on life's terms is really what, for me, is the crucial point of staying sober. Living in my doing my higher power's will is very important, And I asked that, and it goes right along with what I selected today is the beside it being my anniversary. I thought it was a powerful topic that the keeping sober has very little to do with me. It's just putting me in the right place and putting my mind and my thought in the right place for the day. And so that's where I can't think my way sober. It's proper use of thought is before action. And this the program has allowed me to put basically putting a stop in my alcoholic thinking, allowing a pause, and then begin again with after that pause, where the alcoholic thinking has been put aside, and this is the proper use of the brain, of our brains. And it's difficult, I think, for someone like me who began drinking at a very young age. This was reiterated by someone I heard on the meeting this morning, that our brains are still in developmental phase. I was drinking. I tried to figure out exactly how many years and when it was exactly, but it's because it's a little foggy. But I know I was drinking in my early teens, very early teens, and probably 12. So that affects, as far as I can see physiologically, that's going to affect the development of my brain. And it's I just read something this morning from because I had a thought on this, that that is in fact true, and it was a scientific bit of information. So that kind of messed up how I thought throughout, until, well, even into sobriety, because I think that it's totally affected my brain, and I think it seems to be more profound with people like me who drink at an early age. So
Yeah, I can see that. I did not get sober as early in life as you. It took me a little bit longer to get to the rooms, but I feel like at 7 years sober, I'm still just putting the pieces together, and you mentioned it, shifting from depending on the way that I think to turning things over to my higher power. What does your higher power look like today?
So I have a very interesting experience in early sobriety, where I was at a conference in Western Pennsylvania. It's still going on. It's basically it's run out of Pittsburgh, and my first sponsor took me there, and sitting by the by the stream on this, the meeting went over the weekend, and the final part was the Sunday morning program called God as I Understand Him. And I'm sitting, or standing, I should say, to the side. I didn't bring a chair or anything, and by this brook. And it's if you know what a trout stream looks like, it's, usually fast water, and it makes some sounds, and it just has a marvelous sound. It is early morning on a Sunday. There is mist in the mountains in this old growth forest that is thousands of years old, essentially. Some of the last bits of old growth forest on the East Coast. And the sun is coming through these ancient trees and making these beams. And I was just struck with a power that I knew that I felt enveloped by this power. And it's funny, 40 years later, it still stays with me. It changes a little bit. It is not a white person in a gown. It's more of a sense that I know everything, that this guy's in charge, or this power is in charge, and that I am not. And I think it gives me a great sense of relief, essentially. and it's guided me rightly throughout the years. It's really been really is profoundly affected my life in a positive way.
And do you attend meetings every day?
Most days, yeah, I do. Now with the pandemic that we're in the middle of, I've taken to Zoom meetings. I prefer morning meetings over evening meetings. I'm kind of I'm not really a night bird. However, I really enjoy some of the meetings I've been attending. I would have attended, if it were, in live in person. But also, I'll pick up on, going to a meeting elsewhere in the country or on a topic or whatever. I'll search through your app and look for meetings. So, yeah, but generally it is, I have a set number that I go to. I'll pick up one or here or two there. But I still have attend meetings regularly. I can say in over my years of sobriety that that hasn't always been the case, but and I can rightfully say that my serenity is definitely dependent on the amount of meetings that I attend.
Yeah, I find that as well. I find that if I skip a day or two, I can already start to tell that I need a meeting. Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned my app. It's not it's the Meeting Guide app, and that's what a phenomenal app. I use it as well to find meetings. So, so you're sober a long time. I'm curious. There might be people listening that also have long time sobriety and are looking for inspiration. Like, what do you tell other people that you meet in meetings about how to stay sober one day at a time?
My sponsor, he just passed away like I said, just
Sorry.
a couple weeks ago. So for me, I think that it's an important point that we stress sponsorship and getting sponsees, but I think I think I need to cover, and I just want to bounce off you first, that we have an obligation to help not only other alcoholics but everyone as a whole. We're basically not only we are to help alcoholics first, certainly, but however we are, our mindset should be service, no matter whether that service is, whether you volunteer as a firefighter or you do the work in many other things, volunteering outside of yourself and not necessarily getting paid for it. And I think that's it's for me. It's a part of the package. Yes, I help other alcoholics, but I also need to help. If I have a skill that my community needs, I should be helping that as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I love the fact that you think of service not just in the context of sobriety and other alcoholics, but helping everyone. So how do you find those opportunities for service outside of AA?
So I think putting my mindset in a sense of service and helping others. I think even in my job, my regular day job, it is about helping others and having that mindset. I'm not particularly good at sponsoring people. So I think I'm kind of put off by I get I hear people say that you have to sponsor people in order to stay sober, and I think that having a mind of service and helping others and getting out of yourself and not using your thought, but using your higher power's thought, that helps you to stay sober. It's getting out of you, and that's where I think finding other opportunities like I said, volunteer fire service, donating blood, becoming doing a number of things outside of yourself, not looking for any particular recognition, and yet helping others. I volunteer on the local medical reserve corps, and because of some of the skills that I have, I've done basically, volunteer firefighting, and I donate blood all the time. And another place for me, at least it worked for me because it was a family thing. The Masonic fraternity is all about helping others, and I find that, and they're not a bunch of drinkers, and that was something else that attracted me to that. And it was my father-in-law who, back when I was married and he was still alive many years ago, we had to talk about it, and it's another organization. It's not, it's helping others, and not. It's not, the focus isn't on you.
So it's refreshing that you mentioned that, Jay, that I believe that there is this stigma about people in recovery feel like they have to get to the point where they're sponsoring a number of people. And there's this sponsor shaming thing. And I really do agree with you that it is about service, not just sponsorship, right?
Exactly. And I think it doesn't hurt to be that way, certainly, but it is not. You have to find your own path to that, and that's working with your sponsor. Just because you have a sponsor doesn't mean that you have to have you have to sponsor a lot of other people. I think that you can find recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous using a sponsor. See, I think the sponsor relationship works that you kind of almost sponsor each other in a way. And that's really, again, it's not for everyone. So, everyone's got to find their own path to recovery, and the sponsor's there to help Sherpa you through that process, through the steps, and finding, what's your best path for recovery. It's not a one size fits all.
Yeah, I like that. So is there anything else you want to tell the audience before we begin to wrap?
Well, I think that, page in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, page 86 through 88, that I still today, I'm looking at my book. I think this is my second one. I think I had an older edition, which I lost in a move, which is unfortunate because it has some great stuff in it. But then again, I get to start with a fresh slate a few years ago and bought a new one. Anyway, so this one's all marked up already too. And I think these pages are really our direction for how to put our head on straight in the morning, how to begin our day well, to take on the day in not in our will, but in our higher power's will for us. It doesn't mean that when I say that we have our higher power think for us, but that we utilize the higher power to help direct our thought properly. Mm-hmm. And that generally our very first thought is the alcoholic thought, where we need to pause, as I mentioned, and find the recovery thought. And this prescription into action on page 86 through 88, it generally puts me in that right place. Reading literature daily, I read a couple of things, an Al-Anon book, as well as another AA book, as well as the Daily Reflection. And again, finding out what works for you, for me anyway, and talking with another person. And this is something I find extremely helpful, is talking with another alcoholic. And doesn't have to be long conversation, or it can be just a text, just reaching out, just developing that thought and connecting with another alcoholic. So I think that's crucial, I believe.
Absolutely. And do you have a list of people? I was told to get a list of 5 people that I could call at any moment. Do you practice that?
I currently do not, but I have in the past. But I do have a number of people that I can call, though. Yeah, I have a lot of numbers on my phone, and I have them sorted a certain way so I can find them quickly. And I think going. Today with Zoom, I can have on my phone, I can have a meeting playing on my desk while I'm at work. And that's, I don't necessarily be totally tuned in on it, but I can tune in on it when I hear something, that's important. I think that's another thing. AA has changed profoundly in the last year with this. And I think this is possibly the next iteration of what our program has in store for us, our higher power has for us, is the fact that we have a force multiplier essentially in this new way of communicating. So, and I think it's really good for especially for us. I hope many can get on board with it and stay sober. But anyway,
that's great. Well, Jay, I want to thank you for spending time with me and sharing your experience, strength, and hope. This has been a wonderful conversation.
Thank you, Michael, for asking me. This is great, and I truly appreciate it. And put a plug in for my Sunlight of the Spirit meeting, which meets in Reston, Virginia. My particular favorite meeting is the men's Big Book meeting on Thursdays at 7 a.m. It's it is the best meeting I've attended. Except for, of course, my very first one, but I have a. So anyway, I want to thank you. Thanks.
I'll find a link to that meeting and put it in the show notes.
That would be great. I appreciate that.
Well, thanks, Jay. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Michael. Take care now.
Thanks so much to Jay for joining us today, and thank you for listening. If you want to join in the conversation, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/Daily Reflection Podcast. We're on Twitter at Daily Reflector. We write about recovery on our blog at blog.dailyreflectionpodcast.com. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.